qualities that felt foundational to who I was. The cheery, carefree Sagittarius the astrology books described was another person entirely. So I shrugged off my supposedly identity-defining sun sign. And, because I had no idea that there was anything more to it, astrology in general. It took nearly a decade for me to reconsider. During that time, I looked for myself in literature and sad indie rock and unfulfilled teenage horniness. I looked for myself in the poetry shelves of the library and in queer punk shows and feminist zine fests, in friendships and relationships and sessions with an exceedingly gentle therapist who didn't understand me at all. I kept learning so much about the world, but none of it could explain to me why I was like this. So quiet, but so restless, so full of hunger, but so afraid of expressing my desires. When I graduated from college and moved to New York, I was surprised when I found myself surrounded by people as critical and curious and distrustful of authority as I was, and who nonetheless talked about astrology like it was interesting and useful. At a party in a Brooklyn backyard, I joked to a woman who brought up astrology that it couldn't be real, for I was really no kind of Sagittarius at all. "Oh," she said, smiling, "but what's your rising sign?" This was the first I'd ever heard of rising signs. Before that moment, I had a vague idea that there existed such a thing as an astrological chart, but it had still never quite occurred to me that astrology was, for practical purposes, anything more than horoscopes in the newspaper or cheesy books for teens at the local chain bookstore. It hadn't occurred to me until then that my own astrological chart was something I could access, and that it might show me a picture of myself that was much clearer, truer, and more interesting than the unrealistic Sagittarius descriptions I had read before. After the party that night, I opened my laptop and typed my date, time, and place of birth into an online birth chart calculator, and it told me my rising sign was Cancer. Cancer rising, I read on the website, can be sensitive, vulnerable, generous, and dreamy, but also moody, avoidant, secretive, and lazy. The sharp, specific correctness of it hurt my feelings. But more than that, it filled me with relief that someone finally saw me clearly, that someone was finally telling me the truth about myself. This moment of bracing recognition was enough to change my entire relationship to astrology. What I saw there became my gateway, my door, my Rosetta Stone, the key that let me interpret the rest of my chart. With this one piece of information locked into place, suddenly, the rest of astrology's potential snapped into focus too. I could return to Sagittarius with new eyes and see in myself the Sagittarian elements I'd missed before: expansive curiosity, generous idealism, a lack of attention to detail, a need for freedom. And although I didn't know what else it all meant yet, I could see that I had an entire chart full of planets, full of placements, full of secrets and mysteries about myself that I could now learn to unlock. It was only at this point that I could begin to access what astrology really had to offer me. In my own life, I didn't need it as a predictor of the future, or as a guide to practical matters, or even as a quick way to determine potential compatibility with a crush. What I did need, and hadn't found anywhere else, not from my good and loving parents, not from my rich and fulfilling friendships, not from therapy or literature or exercise or long hours spent trying to figure out my own brain, was an affirmation that the way I was wired was fundamentally okay. After so much time spent imagining that there was, ultimately, a single best way to be a person, one that we all, to greater or lesser degrees, continually failed to attain, astrology invited me to radically re-envision the world. It showed me a world where people